All right. Well, thanks for being here today, bro. This is going to be
Yeah, no,
exciting.
thanks.
Super excited to have you. I've been wanting to have you come on and talk for a while. So for everybody listening to the show, my guest today is Chandra, and he's a good friend of mine from Aries Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But he's got something really cool in the works. So I want to jump in and introduce you to him. And so Matt, welcome to the show.
Yeah. What's going on, guys? Yeah, thanks, Randy, for having me. I appreciate it. And yeah, train jujitsu with Randy. Been at Aries for a while, and I'm a dad. I have 3 kids. And we just recently launched a kids protein bar company called Clean Kidz Nutrition. And
Yeah, man, we're
we got a
gonna
quick
jump right into it. You got something? Yeah,
little
there
bar
it
right
is.
there. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
like to circle back around, dude. All of my kids roll. They train jujitsu. That's kind of the lifestyle, the healthy lifestyle that we started doing through jujitsu is something I want to incorporate through my kids. And once you started looking at their diet and things like that, and how can we, fuel their bodies, we weren't really too happy with some of the stuff on the market. So,
Yeah.
my wife and I decided to kind of take matters into our own hand and create something and put it out there.
Yeah, so we're gonna circle back to that. I wanna jump before
Okay.
we get too far ahead of us, I wanna talk a little bit about you and sort of your background. Where do you come from? And what do you do? Like, tell us about.
Yeah. Yeah. People, when you ask what they do, they go to occupation. But honestly, my life purpose right now is to be a good husband, to be a good dad. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. So I have 3 little kids. The way I grew up single mom. My wife grew up from uh, not the best home either. So when we decided to have kids, we want to give our family a very secure household. And that's something I want to continue doing. And my occupation is I'm a firefighter paramedic. I've been doing that for about 12 years now. And yeah, it's a great career. I love it to death. It's like I pinch myself every time I go to work. And then part of that is problem solving. So I'm always like looking for problems to solve, which leads into this. And yeah, man, that's work as a firefighter, husband, father, just trying to spend time with my kiddos. Learning, I love learning. This summer we're gonna tackle camping. Never grew up camping, and this is like our summer
Okay.
thing is to get into camping. So yeah,
Dude, love that for you. Well, let's talk
yeah.
about that too, because I definitely, it's super funny. My buddy Chris Anderson, who's
Oh yeah.
on the
Oh
show
yeah.
sometimes too. Chris didn't grow up camping either. His dad was in Silicon Valley, and so he's got a couple of little kids. And last year, he reached out and he said, "I'm about to go on my first camping trip. Any tips?" And so I gave him this little quick checklist or whatever, and,
Nice.
he came back and he was like, "Bro, I was the star of the campground, like, everybody loved it. I had all these, it made me look like I actually knew what I was doing." I was like, "Dude, that's perfect."
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so well, okay, there's so much to unpack, right? Like,
Yeah.
so how did you get into firefighting?
Yeah. So I got into firefighting. So I graduated high school. Up until that point, I grew up playing sports, and then after high school, just kind of floated around for a couple years. Man, really didn't have a purpose. Was really kind of not doing the right thing. Just kind of moseying around. I got into heating and air conditioning here in the
Mhm.
Sacramento area. I did that for a couple summers, and that was some hard work. And I remember doing that, and I was like, man, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. Um, but it wasn't. I was about 22, and I realized like, hey, I gotta like buckle down and do something serious here. And I always thought about something with public safety. My dad's a retired police officer, and I kind of
Mhm.
reached out to him, and he was just like, yeah, don't go law enforcement. He's
Mhm.
like, if you want to do anything in public safety, check out fire. And it was just kind of that time in my life where I kind of matured a little bit. I started taking classes. And then from age 22 plus, I've just been going through the whole thing of EMT, fire academy, paramedic school, volunteering. And then in 2014, I got my first full time job. And then I've been there ever since.
Which fire department are you with?
That's the San Rafael Fire Department.
Okay, San Rafael. Oh, yeah, so that's a
Yeah.
commute. That's
Yeah.
a commute for
Yeah.
sure. Um, so you hear like a little bit of a mixed bag on the sort of standard firefighter life, right? Like
Hmm.
there's this element of going and staying in the firehouse and and sort of I guess I guess where I'm actually headed with it is sort of the diet regimen, right? Like what because you stay in that house and then there's somebody cooking, right? Or maybe everybody cooks a little bit.
Yeah,
Then you come home and you have kind of a I've spent enough time traveling in the car and doing things like my diet right now is horrible because
yeah,
not because of my food choices, um, but just because of my instinct to neglect eating until a later time when I have time to sit
yeah.
down and do it, and then I never end up eating, right?
Mhm.
But did becoming a firefighter, did that help shape your kind of attitude towards nutrition, or was that always something that was kind of in the picture?
Not necessarily in the beginning, it wasn't. I didn't really have an understanding of the diet. What the fire service brought was the kind of the workout regimen, being back on a team environment, things of that nature. But it wasn't until I had my first daughter that I really started focusing on the food that I was consuming.
Mm.
Up until that point, it was mostly just like meathead stuff. Like, dude, I'm trying to bulk here, trying to get the gains. Like, eat as
Yep,
much as you can.
yep,
Just like, no concept of true nutrition. Which was fine back then, but now, you get a little bit older and wiser and you're like, hey, it's not always about the calories. It's more about, eating a whole food diet and being balanced
yeah,
with that. And I'm about to be 39 soon, so it's like, now I'm at the age where like I rarely even drink alcohol.
yeah.
Just trying to get as much sleep as I can. It's the little things you don't even think about in your 20s that now I'm like, hey, I got to start preparing for my 40s. And a lot of it is just preparation.
Yeah, man, that's relatable, right? Like,
Yeah,
when you say 39, like, the instant bell that goes off in my head is that's when I started jujitsu, like, the
dude.
the worst time of my life, like, the worst physical place of my life, uh, I started right where you're at now, but in a much worse situation,
Yeah,
right? Um, and so, I'm always fascinated by, like, uh, I didn't think about that stuff ever, and I grew up in in that time, like in the mid late '80s where, uh, the sort of confluence of, TV designed
hmm,
to reach a certain audience, they were trying to reach kids at that point, and all the shows and all the commercials and all the stuff that you had access to, they were all just pushing, like, the most sugary cereals,
yeah,
the craziest, soda, and my grandma was a product of her environment, so she kept her house completely stocked with everything that we could ever want,
yeah,
and so, there was a period of my life where I was literally eating cereal morning, noon, and night and just having, soda whenever I wanted, and,
yeah,
um I just can't imagine the damage I was doing just in complete ignorance because it just,
yeah,
because it tastes good, and then
yeah, for
you
sure.
develop this sort of routine. Um, so I didn't grow up super healthy, and I didn't really start even thinking about the kind of stuff we're talking about until probably, like, in the last 10 years, like, literally
Yeah,
when I started doing jujitsu, and then I realized,
yeah,
"Oh, that food that you've been eating your whole life is actually causing massive inflammation that's making it
hmm,
even harder for you to get into this jujitsu thing."
yeah,
Um, so that was like just a natural when I hear that sort of progression, but I think that's probably great for you because you got to get ahead of it. Like, I didn't get ahead of that before my kids were born, right?
yeah,
By the time I was that old, my kids were almost adults, so I had raised them also on that. This is sort of what we do. We're trying to eat as healthy as possible, but it's mostly they were athletes, and they did all that stuff too. So, um, I think that well, I wonder for you, how much or how difficult was it to sort of break out of that sort of system of eating? Um, what was like the road to being more intentional about your food and your nutrition?
yeah. Honestly, what started off for me was early on was dude, I just started monitoring my sugar content. And that's like the one thing that I noticed, like even when I look at photos from now to back then, was once I started noticing how much sugar I was eating, that was like the first step. And I would
Yeah,
monitor that, and then you go through little phases here and there. And I think right now we're at a good spot now because even though I want to be super healthy for my kids, like we still live life, dude. I have 3 kids. Like, when we go to a birthday party, I'm not like, no, you're not gonna eat that. Like, it is what it is.
Yeah,
Do they
yeah,
work hard in jujitsu and wrestling and like, hey, we're gonna go to In-N-Out afterwards, right? But it's
yeah,
the
yeah,
balance of things, right?
yeah,
But the first thing I think that helped me out was monitoring my sugar content. And I realized the added sugar is in a lot of things. And I know for me personally, once I got that under control, it just like you said, it helps with the inflammation, it helps with everything. And then you start feeling better about it. And then, like even then jujitsu comes in the picture. It's like you start training and you're like, I want to feel better for my training. I want to feel better for my recovery process. And then you just start monitoring everything from that point.
yeah. Dude, I have this distinct memory. So I grew up with around a couple of uncles. Everybody in my family drank a lot. And
Yeah.
so I remember certain times having breakfast over at my grandma's house with my uncles. And they would come and sit down at the table and they would be eating the same thing as me, eggs and bacon or whatever grandma made. And they'd be just pouring on Tabasco sauce, right? Like
Yeah.
all over their food. And I realized that, I didn't know why when I was a kid. I was like, who wants that much hot sauce on their food? Like, that's crazy, especially their breakfast.
Mhm.
But I realized that the reason why they were putting all that on there was because they drank so much alcohol, they couldn't taste their food.
Yeah.
And so the sort of switch that flipped for me was when I started monitoring my sugar too, because that was kind of the same starting point. Was I realized, man, well, I got to get rid of this soda, right? That was kind of the soda was the sort of
Mhm.
stepping stone for me because I drank a ton of soda,
Yeah.
like all day, every day, right? And I grew up in the era of like double big gulps where they started
Yeah.
selling you a half gallon of soda at the store. Like who needs that much soda?
Yeah.
Um, but I realized that when I started limiting my sugar intake, all of a sudden I could taste my food again,
Yeah.
right? Like if you don't drink a soda for say a month and you're used to drinking like 3 or 4 a day or more, right? At the end of that month, you go back and drink a soda, it's gonna be awful.
Oh yeah. Too much sugar. You're like, dude, that's way too sweet.
Yeah, it's gonna kill you. It's not gonna taste good, it's gonna be offensive to your palate. Unfortunately, because of the programming, most of us will just push through that feeling until we're okay with the taste again, right?
Yeah.
Because it's an idea, it's not the actual thing. So, what about the it's all fine and well, right, for you to decide that you wanna get your stuff together and you wanna get on your journey. What about your wife? Like, did she grow up eating well or, was that like how did that factor
Yeah.
what was the discussion like when you guys finally started being like, "Dude, we gotta do something about this," right?
Yeah, she has way better genetics than me. So she probably eats more like we both grew up in the fast food area, right? Era like we both grew up fast food. That was kind of our thing. She grew up working in a gym, so she had a better concept
Mm,
of nutrition than I did. Um and when we first started making these changes, it wasn't something that I came to her and was like, "Hey, you got to do this too." Like I slowly started implementing it to my diet. And then I would make dinner and then slowly start rolling it out for us. And now she laughs and tells me, she's like, I'm glad you made this change because she has a sweet tooth, which I don't. But I'm like, hey, like, so it wasn't one of those things where I came to her and was like, hey, we need to change. I just kind of led from the front and did my thing. But also like, I didn't harp on her or anything like that. It was a team thing. And
yeah,
she was super supportive throughout the whole process. She's still, anytime I come to her, like, hey, I don't want to eat this or make these changes, she's so supportive.
that's awesome. It's super helpful
Yeah.
too. I,
Yeah, for sure.
so Michelle on the other end, she's, she doesn't really eat anything, bad for the most part, like, she fasts a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times when I go, "What's for dinner?" And she goes, "I'm fasting." I'm like, "Oh, okay, fantastic." So I'm on my own, which usually
Yeah.
means, like,
Yeah.
now I'm at that crossroads, right? I'm like, "Well, we're not eating together, and I don't how much effort do I wanna put into this?" Right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, again, In-N-Out's right down the road.
Yeah.
Actually, what the trap that I found myself in was I would wake up in the morning and drink coffee, which I still do. Terrible, terrible habit, right? Um, but I love it. I'll
Yeah.
wake up in the morning and drink coffee, and then my appetite's completely suppressed. I don't even
Yeah.
not even interested in entertaining the idea of eating food. And so then I get to about 1 o'clock and my body starts shaking and getting weak and shutting down. I'm like, oh, I need some food. So then I'll start cramming something in, maybe a snack or something. Well, then I'll go for the rest of the day with a tiny bit of food in my system, and I get to jujitsu, and then I go train hard. And then after the night of workout, I'll go, well, I better eat something, right? I
Yeah.
need to recover something. And so then I'll go through the drive-through at Adalberto's and get a burrito and an
Yeah.
horchata at 9 o'clock at night, you know, like,
Yeah.
and go home,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm going to sleep on is a giant
Yeah.
burrito and a giant cup of sugar water, you know, like,
Yeah.
um, what's the point of all that hard work?
For sure.
Right?
For
Like,
sure.
you're not gonna get the recovery because you're gonna be hurting the next day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but that's good that at least, you know, she's kind of like along the same path. Because if you're not at least headed in the same direction, that can be a really challenging situation
Absolutely.
in your house, right?
Yeah.
So then you start so where did you meet your wife?
So I met my wife. We actually worked together. She worked at 20, we both worked at 24 Hour Fitness. She was a club manager and I worked at the front while I was going through all my schooling for the fire service.
Okay.
So we were friends. We hung out, we were friends. We didn't do any dating or anything at that point. And then when I left that job, I became a full-time paramedic, started working at a private ambulance company. And then we just kind of reconnected and I shot my shot and she went for it. And yeah, been together ever since, man.
How long ago was that?
Oh man, that was we've been married for 11 years together, around 12 and a half.
Okay, nice,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, she's super cool, I love her.
Yeah, she's
Oh,
awesome.
always a big smile when I come into the gym, and she's always
Yeah.
there just, like, supporting and
She's
yeah,
she's the best.
super cool.
Jiu-jitsu
So
mom to the core.
but she doesn't train,
She doesn't
right?
train. And
Yeah.
she doesn't train and I'm like, "Hey, let's get you in the mats." And she's like, "No, that's not my thing." But she's like, "I'll wash the gis, I'll get the kids going there," and super support that. Back in the day it was soccer moms, now it's jiu-jitsu moms.
It's
So,
jujitsu moms.
yeah,
Which, you know, I would say is a step in the right direction.
for sure.
Michelle doesn't do it either, and she talks about it. You know, she'll let me bring her on the mat every once in a while, and but I think if she's gonna learn it, it's gonna end up just being one of those things where I have to be really intentional to like go.
Yeah.
We're gonna do one-on-one sessions regularly until you at least, you know. I think everyone should know some of it at
Yeah.
least, you know. Um, but I understand she's like
Yeah.
the idea of being in that close a proximity with
Yeah.
another human completely covered in sweat and,
For sure.
you know, and all the things that that come with that, she's just not into it, you know, and I'm like,
Yeah.
You know, I get it. I'm not gonna try to force it."
Yeah.
But
And while we're on this, I'm gonna. Oh, sorry.
no.
This brings me to a good point that I want to make too. Is like for any parents out there, for what the one thing I've noticed is my kids train. And one of the things that I've noticed as a parent is that the earlier you can get your kids on the mats and in the gi and in that close contact, the better. Because I've seen kids, and kids are adaptable, and I've seen kids come in that are like teenagers that come in and they get used to it and crush it. But that initial learning curve, the sooner you could put your kids in that learning curve, and get them used to being uncomfortable in those situations, is only going to help them out. You know?
Yeah, man, I don't think that can be understated at all.
Yeah.
It's, well, they say everything for when your kids are young, right? If you're gonna teach them a language when they're young is the time, if you're gonna teach them an instrument when they're young is the time, um, because we start developing personalities and ideas, right? And then we
Yeah.
get to this place where like, "Oh, that idea conflicts with what I'm trying to do
Yeah.
now," right? And then you have that thing, even if it's not real,
Yeah.
you have that thing. So, um, are all of your kids training now?
Yeah, they are. So my kids are 10, 7, and 5.
Yeah,
And they train and we picked up wrestling this summer also. And,
so
like we
good.
tell them, one of the biggest things for jujitsu is we just tell them, hey, it's hard and we want you guys to do hard things. And obviously
Yeah,
there's the self-defense aspect that comes with it, but it's also the like jujitsu's hard, man. Wrestling's hard. These grappling sports are hard. And, the sooner we could get them into it. And those are the life lessons that we take away. Like, I don't care if my kids want to do competitions or not. Of course, I want them to be the best that they can at it and progress and have the skill sets that come
yeah.
through the hard work. But for me, it's more the life lessons they get from being on the mats.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, it's such an important thing. Did you wrestle or play sports or anything?
No, I grew up playing football and baseball.
Okay.
And then, dude, yeah, and then just got into jujitsu a little over 7 years ago.
Okay.
And I'm the guy who's like YouTubing how to shoot a double leg because I never grew up, wrestling, which I wish I did.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But, it's funny, so I wrestled just 1 season in high school and then, my freshman year, and then I discovered music, and so then I was
Yeah.
like, "I'm not interested in any of that anymore.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be a rock star." Um, but once I got to the place where my kids started high school and they started wrestling, that was what opened the door to jujitsu for me because I was like,
Okay.
"Oh, I've already been into UFC, I've been into boxing, I've been," my dad was super into, like, kung fu. I have an uncle,
Yeah.
who was a black belt in Wing Chun. So, like,
Yeah.
I have all that stuff around, but there was something about, like, going to their wrestling practice and spending that time with them and just, like, everybody's going crazy and so then their coach actually gave me, a section of a wrestling mat that was sitting in an old closet they weren't using,
Oh, nice.
and so I brought it home and I put it in my living room, and our whole living room was actually a wrestling mat for all 4 years
Yeah.
of their high school. So, which and I've talked about it a little bit on the show before, but man, there's nothing like that. You guys are fighting, take it to the mat. You guys are
Yeah.
being annoying, let's go to the mat. Like
Yeah.
whatever. And then you think you're big and bad, you want to take a poke at your dad? Let's take it to the mat. Like
Yeah.
whatever you need. But for me, that was sort of it didn't go like me and then I introduced it to the kids. It went like the kids were doing it and then I went, well, shoot, now I want something more for me,
Yeah.
right? Where do I go from here? And
Yeah.
that was actually what led me into the jujitsu gym. What was it that brought you into the gym?
Oh man, dude, it was something I've always wanted to do, but it was like, as you know, like you get older, married, kids, there's things you want to do and you just don't ever do them. And it just worked out right. Like I saw Aries, they just moved from the elite over to the fairway location.
Uh-huh.
And we go to that Costco all the time. And I was just like, you know what? Like I gotta make this happen. And I had a couple guys at work who roll. So they definitely motivated me and pushed me and we held each other accountable. And
Yeah.
actually we all started training around the same year. What was that, like 7, 8 years ago?
Yeah.
And my two other buddies, they're brown belts now. I'm a purple belt, and we've all stuck with it, which is super cool, which is super rare. But
Yeah.
yeah, and then that led me into Aries, and dude, the whole first year was literally just me like, dude, what am I doing? Why am I this is terrible. What am I doing? And then dude, shout out to Jordan Lopez. He was like on my first day was one of my roles, and he just put it on me. And it's
He'll love
class
that
still
story.
still does. Yeah. Yeah, shout out to Jordan. No mercy for the day one guy.
Hey, no mercy for the day one black belt either. I'm just gonna tell you, and there's never any mercy anywhere. Jordan likes to bring the pain.
He brings
Um,
the pain, dude, but he makes everyone better, and that's why I love that guy.
dude, it's it's something that we talk about a lot. Because Jordan's one of my really good friends, and he's obviously been a jujitsu mentor. When I started, actually, when I met him, he was a two-stripe blue belt,
Yeah.
and he was already just an absolute monster, just
Yeah.
horrible to deal with. So you started training. Y- At that point in time, you must have only had Mila, right? Because you was like 7, 8 years ago, right? So she was probably still pretty young.
Yeah, she was young. I think she was, man, 3 or 4, like, terrible with numbers, but 3 or
Yeah.
4 I think my wife was pregnant with my son at that
Okay.
time.
Okay.
And then, yeah, we just started training, and then, it's like and this is where jujitsu really it's the health focus. For me, it was, at that point is I caught the bug, and it wasn't even the bug of rolling, it was the bug of, this is how I decompress from work. This is, like, very meditative for me.
Yes.
Um, and you go roll with other individuals who, it just helps, like, incorporate my healthy lifestyle, and it's been dude, jujitsu has been a complete blessing, and,
Yeah.
I'm a pure hobbyist, like, this is a dad with 3 kids, pure hobbyist,
Yeah.
and has been such a blessing to my life, to my family's life, um, and it's been great, man. And it's the community aspect of it also. The gym that we train at Aries, the community from the kids classes to, and everyone has their like little the zombie crew and the noon squad and all this, and it's just great, man. It's just great.
Yeah, Aries is a especially the Roseville place. I mean, they're all pretty good. I've been to a few of them, around, and they're all pretty good. It's a good organization with good,
Yeah,
founding members at the head,
yeah,
that I think that makes a difference, and we talk a lot about the culture of different gyms, and
hmm,
Aries Roseville definitely has a very special culture. Um,
yeah.
so talk about a little bit about how the impact that that's had on your kids being part of that culture. Like, what differences have you noticed in them from training and being and having access to that sort of culture and community?
Yeah, no, it's been good for them. Honestly, it's been, I mean, that's all they know. They haven't had an option. Like we tell them, like, hey, you're training until you're 18, and then you can make that decision, right? And like we said, it's not for competitions, it's not for anything. It's for number one is the self defense aspect of it, and number two is the
Yeah,
life skills and them getting used to doing hard things, right? Like that's what it's about. But what's cool is like we homeschool our kids, so
yeah,
we to have a community there where they get to go see their friends, they get the socialization aspect of it. They're really tight with all the instructors, dude. Has amazing instructors. And then you go to the kids classes, and the one thing too that I've been noticing over the past year or two is a lot of the parents now that their kids start off training just like you, they're now doing the adult programs, they're now rolling, and it's like, dude, it just incorporates a great lifestyle from the top down, right? It's harder,
100%.
if you expect your kid to do something hard, but you're not willing to do it yourself, it's like, come on, man, you know?
Especially when you're on the sidelines screaming at 'em, "Bridge, roll, turn over,"
Yeah,
and you're like,
yeah,
"Hey, you get out here and do it. Like,
yeah,
let me
yeah,
lay on top of you, and then you do it." Um, yeah, that's crazy. And you're right. It's again, like, we talk about the place and we talk about the culture, but it really comes down to the individuals there, and I love exactly what you're talking about. I'll be standing behind the counter during a kid's class and just watch a dad who I've seen week after week after week kinda
yeah,
sheepishly walk over and go, "So, theoretically, hypothetically, if I was interested in doing this, how would
yeah,
I" like,
yeah,
"Bro, so let's throw you in a gi and get you on the
yeah,
mat," like, don't, um no, I 100% agree with that, and I think kids can be a huge motivator for all kinds of changes that you make
yeah,
in your life. I mean, certainly, I made, immense amounts of changes, just because of wanting to be a better man or a stronger
yeah,
dad for my 2 boys. Um, it's amazing how kids can change you and kinda shift the
yeah,
direction.
absolutely.
So, speaking of that, right, once you start getting your kids in and they start training, and then you realize, "Okay, we're responsible for setting them on a nutrition path."
Mhm.
You start giving them what everybody gives them, right? You start looking for protein bars with brightly colored wrappers, and you start looking for, drinks, and you start looking for things that you can give your kid that's not soda and that's not, in and out all the time, right? Like,
Yeah.
how so what was that sort of, did you have a light bulb moment, or was it
Yeah.
just sort of a period of time? Like, how did it start to come about?
Yeah, so I would say the light bulb moment for us was about 3 years ago, 3, 4 years ago, and my oldest daughter, Shelby and I would still eat protein bars, and my oldest daughter just kept wanting to eat our protein bars, and we were like at that point, we're like, "Alright, well, let's try to get you a kids one," and we started looking, and the number 1 kids bar on the market, is a Z bar, which is like it's a granola, but it's got 2 grams of protein and 10 grams of added sugar. And we just looked at that, we're like, "Dude, I don't wanna give this to my kid on a daily basis," right? Like,
Yeah.
we believe in a whole foods diet, and the majority of our food is gonna come from whole foods, even our kids, but with kids, they love snacks, so there's gonna be the occasional bar, there's gonna be the occasional snack to keep them full, get them ready on the way to practice.
Right.
And for me, I love being a firefighter, and I love the problem-solving side of it, but I've also always my whole life, I've been interested in business and entrepreneurship. And at that point, it was kind of a light bulb of like, hey, why don't we started looking and I was like, man, this kind of like goes in hand. Like, let's start looking on how could we create something and bring it to market?
Yeah.
And that's what we've been doing over the last 2.5 years.
Yeah, so let's talk about that.
Oh,
What's the starting point? Like, how do you when you decide that you wanna do that, because I'm sure, like, most people, right? If I pick up something, especially these days, I pick up something and it says 2 grams of protein, I immediately put it back down because 'cause I'm like, "That's not even worth
yeah.
putting in my mouth," right? Like, I guarantee that I burned 2 grams of protein putting my gi on before practice,
Mhm.
right? So, I want something if I'm gonna have protein, I want something that's really gonna, like, give me some protein.
Yeah.
But I have no idea what that really means. I don't know how you
Yeah.
evaluate that. Like, I wouldn't even know how to honestly, the ignorance, is I would think, "How do I put that under a microscope and see what's in it? Like, how do I test
Yeah.
for this? How do I" So, when you're trying to figure out how to get an actual food product started that represents a certain amount of something, like, what's that process like?
Yeah.
How do you get started with that?
Yeah, so the first thing we did was we started reaching out to, food manufacturers, and, that was a process on its own, and dude, it's been a roller coaster. And the jujitsu spirit, the fighting spirit has kept us in the game because we're still here from that. And we've worked with different manufacturers. And through that we started working with different food scientists. And the food scientists are going to be the ones specifically who help us with the macros, with the ingredients, and all
Mhm.
of that information. And we told them from the jump, dude, when we started, we were like, hey, what's important to us is we want a high protein and we want clean ingredients. We don't want any artificial ingredients. We don't want any um uh high fructose corn syrup, any dyes, like none of it. We want it as clean as can possibly be
Yep.
with high protein and low sugar. And that was our starting point. Um and then from there it was like, yeah, I pulled some money out of my retirement account. First things first, I sat down with the wifey and we talked, and dude, she
Yeah.
was so supportive. And if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't even be here. But so, if you're a man out there, dude, get yourself a good woman. That's the number one key for success right there.
Yeah, that
Someone who's going to
also
support
cannot
you.
be understated.
Seriously. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's amazing.
Who doesn't mind washing your geese and who'll support you in all your ventures. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a huge
Yeah.
win for sure.
Yeah.
So, you start going through and I think I caught wind of, like, sort of what you were doing probably, like, midstream, right? Like, right after you'd already been dealing with, like, the recipe and the food science of it
Yeah.
and all that stuff, and you were starting to figure out the business side of it. But how did you settle on eventually, how did you settle on the final recipe? Like, how does you know what I mean? I'm just so fascinated. Because I have no idea how this works.
Yeah. Yeah, and I had no idea earlier either, and I just started diving into some books. I started researching it hardcore, and then essentially, so the way a lot of these protein bars, a lot of the protein powders you see are there, even pre workouts. There's things called white label where you could just go to a company, you could buy their formula, slap your label on it, and sell it, and that's what a
Yep.
lot of companies do, and that's the cheaper route to go. Um, well, then on the flip side, what you have is people who actually work with food scientists who formulate what they want,
Mm,
and that's more expensive, that's more time consuming, and that's obviously the path that we chose.
yeah.
And it wasn't always smooth. The first manufacturer that we worked with, they were very, when I'm starting calling these people up, it's like, dude, hey, early, nobody wants to work with you, right? Like I've had multiple manufacturers like laugh at me, like, dude, if you're not going to meet our minimum order quality of like 800,000 bars, like we're not even going to
Yeah.
talk to you, right? Like,
Yeah.
um, so the first manufacturer we started working with was a company down south, and they, looking back, it was just just made a mistake and it didn't work out, and we went through their process and they gave us some bars, which turned out good, but then their pricing and their lead times were just way too. And when you look back in it, it's like the writing was on the wall that that wasn't going to be a good fit from the beginning.
Yeah.
It was on me. I kind of forced it when I shouldn't have, but it worked out great because now I work with a smaller manufacturer, and they have a great food scientist, and so all this took about a couple years, and it took trial and error. Our food scientist would give us some recipes, give us some formulas, we'd get them. We, we had one where it was really good, and then like the oil residue, because peanut butters are one of our bases.
Yeah.
Because kids love peanut butter, and we want to get it in their hands and have them enjoy it also.
Yep.
And then everything was great, and then a week later, like the oil is like seeping through the wrappers and the bags, and we're like,
Ah,
now we got to go back to the drawing board, you know?
yep. That's interesting, like, you don't so many facets of it that you don't even think
Yeah,
about, you know? And then there's an element of trust in it too, right? Because like, I could get a good recipe, I could trust the scientist, I could have all that, I still wouldn't know,
yeah,
right? But so you have to have that sort of trust and build that over time with someone you could tell really cares about it.
yeah,
I think it's interesting too, and maybe I'm just a little bit conspiracy minded, but I think that the idea of big food shutting you down because you're not willing to step up and meet like a huge
oh yeah,
is intentionally prohibitive. Like it
yeah,
intentionally creates a barrier of entry, right, for the smaller people who
yeah,
want to actually make a change in the way
yeah,
things are going. Um, because that manufacturer probably also puts out Z-Bar, right? So
yeah,
you're like,
yeah,
oh, okay, it's the same distributor. Um, so okay, so you get the recipe you like, right? And you're comfortable with the manufacturer and the scientist.
yeah.
You're okay with all that. So then what? What's the next step?
Yeah, so and granted, like all of this is taking place over from beginning of like us forming our LLC to going through the formulation process to everything. It took us about 2.5 years from the beginning to actually launching, which we did 3 months ago.
Okay.
And we did everything ourselves between my wife and I and our manufacturer, our food scientist. So not only that, then we have to our manufacturer is so small that we were the ones reaching out to suppliers to get all the ingredients. So we're
Mm.
doing everything behind the scenes. We're getting all the ingredients, getting that sourced over to our manufacturer. We're getting all the wrappers, the boxes. We have to work with the graphic designer, getting our insurance, all of this stuff, making content, like doing the social media thing, which I like. It's a love hate relationship, and it's actually something that right now we're continuing to learn marketing through social media. That's our next hurdle. But yeah,
Let's
all of
talk
this is
about it.
taking place. Dude, seriously, yes.
I would love to help you
Any
with it.
tips or tricks you got, dude?
I would love it. I would
Yeah,
love it. No, I think so that's super inspiring actually, dude. And I want to take I'm in the middle of the story. I want to take a second just to say pushing through those kind of hurdles, um, you could chalk it up to stubbornness if you wanted to, but I think it really comes down to you have to have the heart for it, right? Like
yeah,
your why has to be big enough and important enough. And for you guys to make the focus, we really want to be able to provide our own kids with the best options that we can.
yeah,
It keeps the intention pure, I think. Probably better than it would just like, oh, we want to help the market get better while we make money. Like
yeah,
I think that when your allegiance gets split like that, it can make it a little more difficult to stay the path. But from the beginning of me hearing you guys talk about this, even when it was just an idea, it's always been we just want our kids to have something better, right? We
yeah,
just we just want this to there we just want an option that's better for our kids.
yeah.
So that's where you end up with Clean Kids, right? So
Yep.
so now tell us about the final product. Tell us how does it work? How can people get it?
Yeah.
How do we take this now and get it out to the masses? Like, what's the
Yeah.
process here?
Yeah, absolutely. So we started off small. So our website is cleankidsnutrition.com. And we spell clean with K, and then kids is KIDZ. So let me show you here. So just so you can see right there. There's a
Okay.
That's how we spell it. We currently just have one flavor right now, which is peanut butter chocolate crunch. And we did our first inventory run and we launched 3 months ago. And right now, our main source of sales is we're taking through either direct to consumer. If you live local, hit us up at the gym, shoot me a DM. We're more than happy to drop boxes off to you. But then also through our Shopify website, which is cleankidsnutrition.com/buy. Let's take you right to that link. Yeah, we right now have one flavor. Our goal is to continue to build this out. We're working through our next steps are to get through Amazon, to get on TikTok Shop and understand the online marketing game. And we've been dropping them off. We got sample boxes at Jiu-Jitsu's. If you want a sample box, we're more than happy to get one to you into your hands. And yeah, just continue to grow this thing and make sure kids get enough protein and get something a healthier snack option.
Do you guys have like any sort of a subscription service, or is it all just individual orders at this point?
Yeah, so we actually just launched our subscribe and save yesterday. So now we
Okay.
have a subscribe and save. So yeah, for you get to get a fresh box delivered every month, and yeah, the subscribe and save is set on our website. So if you go to our Instagram handle, on the bottom we have a link to our website where you could purchase or set up for the subscribe and save.
So what's the bottom line on the what are the numbers for the bar? Right? Like we're now I'm looking at the options. I'm reading the labels. What am I giving my kids when I hand them a Clean Kids bar?
Yeah, so when you our macros are 8 grams of protein, 7 grams of fiber, which is another key thing that kids aren't getting
Yeah.
enough of is fiber. So you got the 8 grams of protein, 7 grams of fiber, 4 grams of sugar. And one of our big things is we don't have any seed oils. We use MCT oil instead.
Mm.
And we use honey, peanut butter, clean ingredients. And the thing is, if your kids like peanut butter and chocolate, like I'm pretty confident they're gonna like our bars. Because even as an adult, I eat one a day. I'm like, dude, these are so good.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was my other question was obviously it's we want to give our kids good food, but is there any reason why an adult couldn't just pop in an 8 gram bar?
No, that's just our that's who it was made for initially. But yeah, dude, our I eat them. My wife eats them. Coach Ethan at Jiu-Jitsu, he loves them. Adults love them, dude. So it's yeah,
That's
marketed for kids, but parents can have them too.
yeah, yeah, that's perfect. That's amazing. So aside from what's immediately next for the business, um, what else is going on? What do you what's the family situation? What's the goal in your next 5 years? What does that look like?
Yeah, dude, for business wise or just family wise?
I don't know, just in general, like what are your where's your head at for, for where things are headed? I mean, obviously, if we're getting into driving territory for Mila at that point, at
Yeah,
the end of that
yeah,
time. So I mean, wild how fast that stuff goes. But
for sure,
uh
man.
yeah, what is I guess a better way to ask the question and sort of to tie it back into um what the whole show is,
Yeah,
because the concept of this show is that life is usually better on the other side of a little bit of hardship or a little bit of
yeah,
suffering, right? Um, I also was always told when I was a kid that necessity is the mother of invention, and I think that applies, I mean, so perfectly into what you
yeah,
guys are doing. It truly was necessity was what made you do it.
yeah,
But so you went through the difficult process of getting all that done, and then the sweeter is what you get to experience on the other side of it. What's the dream? Like, what is it for you? What would the definition of success be in relation to just everything? How it
yeah.
because you guys homeschool already, right? And you're very plugged in with your kids, and you have a very specific plan for them. So, how do you measure success?
Yeah, so for me, like one thing, and one of the reasons also the catalyst for starting this business too was I want to give my kids an opportunity, especially the world is changing so fast right now, right? You talk about AI, you talk about technology, the old cliche of like sending your kids to college is going to set them up for success. Like times are changing, right?
Yeah,
So one thing I also wanted to do through this business was show my kids that there's other opportunities possible, right? Like
yeah,
the whole e-commerce side of things. If they ever get creative, if they want to start a business, if they want to market it, that way I have some basic understanding of that. They're seeing that firsthand. And this is a family business. Like, dude, the kids are helping me nonstop with their shooting content, putting stickers on the boxes,
yeah,
fulfilling orders. Like they're hands on and helping us out. But for my goal, I sit down, like I journal every day. I read my journal. I look at my goals. I'm a very goal oriented individual. And one thing I just kind of starts off with is number one is I'm a faith driven person. So I was like, as long as I always have my relationship with God, with Jesus, that's going to be my number one thing in my life to keep me forward. to have a successful marriage. You know, marriages are not easy and it takes work. And at the end of the day, if I can have a successful marriage and raise happy, healthy kids who have their faith and one thing I also hope for is my kids is that they encounter some hardships. Life is tough. They're going to face adversity, right? Like you can't keep them away from that. But I hope I can give them the skills to handle that and for them to grow through that. And when I look at it, is like I hope this brand and this business helps me. Um, yeah, there's also income possibilities I want through it. But at the end of the day, when I look back, it's like the finances and everything is to help give back. That's why I want to do these things.
Yeah.
I also want to write a book in the future. That's like one of my goals is to write a book and just be plugged in with my family, man. Be as healthy as I can, stay on the mats for as long as I can, be a good dad, be a good husband, and that's the big picture stuff, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, that should be the hope for every guy,
Yeah,
that wants to be a good husband, a good father, and a good member of society and,
yeah,
and a contributor. Um, so where can where can people plug in? Like, I know you've got the website, but say the website again. Tell us what your socials are. How can we plug in and support? How can we get the message out?
yeah. So right now, our main way is through our Instagram, which is Clean Kids Nutrition. And there's a link to buy there. There's a link to set up for the subscribe and save, and that's our main source right now, and that's going to take you to our website. We talk about the goals. This upcoming year, our main goal is to kind of set up our whole platform through e-commerce. So, like I said, like hit Instagram hard, get on to Amazon, get on a TikTok shop, keep growing our email list. And that's one of the things that we talk about too, is right now our biggest hurdle is the online marketing, the ads, things like that. But that's something I'm excited to learn and another thing to tackle and to grow. But yeah, for right now, our main source is going to be through Instagram. And if you're local, shoot me a DM or when you see us, let us know. We bring you guys some bars for your kids to try out. And yeah, I hope they enjoy it.
Yeah, that's awesome. We'll make sure that all the links and everything are down in the description. We'll do
Awesome.
some social posts and send people your way. I really love what you have going on. And one of the things about this show that I get an opportunity to do, and that I always want to do is end every episode with some gratitude. And
Yeah.
so uh, I just want to take a moment to be grateful to you, not only for stopping in today, but you're a good dude. Like I've always,
Yeah.
since I met you, I've always thought you were a great guy. I really enjoy having you around, and we've had some really fun roles together as
Yeah.
well. Uh, I love seeing your family, and I love seeing how everybody's always there and just working and happy and dedicated. And you're right, it's not always easy, raising a family and keeping a marriage going, but
Yeah.
you guys really do it, in a way that seems easy and graceful, and I think that's a really cool thing. I think it's a great example that you're setting for your kids, and I think that also this effort and this time that you're putting into this is an amazing example that you're setting for your kids. So I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. And for everybody out there that's listening to this, go check them out. Again, the links are
Yeah.
going to be in the descriptions. Go grab some great, solid, clean, natural ingredient foods for your kids. Try them out for yourself if you want. I
Yeah.
haven't had a chance to try one yet, but I have definitely seen them at the gym, and I see kids eating them and stuff. And so now that I know that they're adult approved too, I'll definitely check them out.
Yeah.
Um, but if you haven't had a chance, hit that follow button, subscribe, like, comment, send it out, help us with our algorithm. But, if you don't do any of those things, that's okay. Keep coming back, keep listening to these conversations. We love having authentic people come on and talk about real things that can make your life better, and that can demonstrate how truly sweet everything can be on the other side of a little hardship. So, again, my guest today has been Matt Chandra, and we're talking about Clean Kids Nutrition. Matt, thank you so much, bro. This was
Dude,
awesome.
thank you so much, Randy. I appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, bud. All right. See you on the
All
mats.
right. See you on the mats, brother. Later.